those of you that are new to the channel, this is an ASMR channel that combines true crime stories and ASMR. If you hate the whispering, if you find it, I don't know, weird, disturbing, or you just don't like it, please feel free to exit out of the video right now because it will be whispered from start to finish. If you're still with me and you care about true crime cases but not so much about the ASMR thing, then please check out my podcast. It's called The Mystery Theory, and I will have some links in the description box and in the comments down below if you want to check it out. Now today we're going to cover the Zodiac, and this is going to be part 1 of a series that I'm going to share with you. Now, series are not the most popular ones, at least on my channel, but I think that I need to stay true to myself and share things that I think are relevant. So I hope that for those of you who would enjoy a few extra videos and a little bit more of in-depth information about this very well-known case of the Zodiac, then this is for you. But if you don't, maybe you can come back whenever you're ready to listen to the following videos and use it for ASMR purposes. For me, it's important to kind of go through different parts of this big thing that it's the Zodiac and give a name to each one of the victims. It's not that he went and shot a couple here and then he shot another couple there. No, these people were real people. They have parents, they have families, and they have, they've been missed. And I think that it would be cheating for me if I don't take the time to share their cases and then at the end put everything together and come up with our own theories. So I hope that you join me for this Zodiac series. Now I'm gonna try to do at least 3 videos this week and try to cover as much as I can. If I can do more, then I'll do more. If not, I'll try to do it in a three-part series. Now, before I move on, I want to invite you guys to check out my podcast. For those of you who are not part of the podcast community that we created, I am covering a series that it's called Criminal Minds Investigation, and we're going through every single thing that was discovered in history and how it helped us today in forensic work and criminology, profiling, and everything that we know as the latest technology today in 2018. This upcoming Wednesday, I will be doing the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. Some people use those words and they actually mean the opposite, so the opposite word or the different word. And I feel like if you want to go a little bit deeper into these cases and you want to understand more, not that you're going to understand the killers, I'm hoping you never understand the killers, as I'm hoping I never will either, but what I mean is that we will start to see some patterns and some things that we can relate from cases to this investigation of criminal minds that I'm doing in my podcast. So if you're interested, you're more than welcome to check them out. I think I already have 3 or 4 episodes in the podcast. In this Wednesday, I'm gonna have that one that is comparing sociopaths to psychopaths in a way that it's a little bit more understandable, at least for me. Now, this is, according to my investigation, this is the first case recorded and kind of attributed to the Zodiac. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. I'm going to go one by one in different cases. Then we're going to go in how they connected them and little by little develop this very interesting kind of mystery. Now, this case happened in Benicia, which is, I've never heard of this place, but I've been to this area of California many times. This is located southeast of Vallejo, California. It's a small town along the, just so you have an idea, as the southern edge of Solana County. Now, Solana County is one of those San Francisco Bay Area surrounding, the Bay Area, that it's not very popular. It is mostly a military town, or it was back then mostly a military town, and kind of they developed their own little community with their families in the area. They had in the area the Mare Island Naval Shipyard and Travis Air Force Base, so a lot of people that lived in this area were either military or they work around something related to this two main things that they had in this town, or in the area or county. On December 20th, 1968, it was a pretty cool night. Now, if you know anything about the Bay Area and the surrounding areas, it does get cold. It does rain a lot. In different seasons, but the temperatures are always some kind of mild, even for winter. So this was very unusual for the area, and it was actually kind of a record, and was somewhat close to the 20 degrees. Pretty cold. Now, even being this cold, well, if you're from Michigan, you're like 20 degrees, it's summer here, but no. For the area, 20 degrees was pretty low. So, just so you have an idea, it was a pretty cool night. But the story is about a couple of teenagers. And of course, they don't care about being cold, right? Because my kids go with shirts and, shorts in the middle of winter when they feel like it. And they say that they're never cold. So, in this case, David Faraday was getting ready to go out on a date with Betty Lou Jensen. Now, David Arthur Faraday was 17 years old at the time, and he was a senior at Vallejo High School. And his plans were, he had different plans, but one of them, it was to become a teacher. Now, Betty Lou Jensen, on the other hand, was only 16 years old, and she was a junior at Benicia Sahogan High School. Not the same one, but it was close by. Betty was described as a talented artist, and she wanted to work in something art related, so she was trying to get a scholarship so she could go to college for that. David and Betty met in a church event that they had they only been dating, or I don't know if I should call it dating, but they only been seeing each other for about 2 weeks. If we're going for the date, December 20th on 1968. But according to, their friends and families, they were beginning to grow inseparable. Their relationship, however, wasn't, that kind of we're dating, I'm gonna go get you, we're gonna go to the movies and then for dinner, stuff like that. It would be mostly casual, because they would meet in different things that were having at their town, maybe church events or things like that. They would still see each other, they were seeing each other, but it wasn't nothing like, okay, we're going in dates. But David actually that night was planning to go with Betty Lou to their first date, and he wanted to ask her to become boyfriend and girlfriend, something a little bit more serious. And when he was planning to do that, and he was also planning to give her his class ring as a type of a promise ring. If you're watching from a different country, I don't know if they do the same everywhere. I know that where I'm from, they don't do it. Graduation is not a big deal. You graduate and they say, thank you for coming, good luck, I hope you go to college. Here it's a big thing, and you get a ring that, of course, you have to pay for it, but it's kind of your year ring, the year that you graduated, and there's a lot of meaning behind it. So David was planning to give her this ring David's mom thought about that, but it was pretty sweet that he was planning that. It was Betty's first date ever, so she took the time and got ready. And according to records, she was wearing a purple dress with a ruffled white collar that she loved. She looked very nice, and by the time that she was ready, David was there to pick her up. Of course, he got out of the car. He didn't just honk and wait for her outside, so he got inside the house and talked to Betty's parents, and he told them that he was planning to take Betty to a Christmas concert at Hogan High School. Remember that Betty goes to Hogan High School, and because of that, it's only 3 blocks away from Betty's home. Well, not because she attends there, but you know what I mean. It's the closest high school to their house, and that's where she was going. Goodness. Betty's dad was a retired lieutenant colonel in the army, so he was a little intimidating. But he told David that it was okay, as long as they made it back by 11 p.m. David, of course, agreed, and maybe, he was a little intimidated by it, but he said that it was okay and that they will be back by 11. They would be back by 11 p.m. And they left in the station wagon he borrowed from his mom. This was a 1961 Rambler station wagon. If you hear noises, I have teenagers that are having lunch in their high school lunch break, so ignore that. Before going to the concert, they made 2 stops. The first one at a friend's house, and the friend's name is Sharon, or was Sharon. And the second one to get something to eat at Mr. Ed's diner. Right after dinner, they decided that they really didn't want to go to the concert. So they kind of changed the plans last minute and headed down Lake Herman Road, which is, let me describe this road for you. This is very isolated. It's a winding road that connects to the Vallejo area, and this was a 2-way road, so pretty small road. It was in the middle of nowhere, and it was surrounded by trees and fields. There were some farms and stuff like that, but this road wasn't very well known among the teenagers as Lover's Lane. You probably heard that phrase in 100 million movies, okay? The idea is, it's a place where kids or teenagers drive to spend time alone with their girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever. At around 10:15 p.m., I'm getting anxious myself because Dad said by 11, but that's okay, they're teenagers. At around 10:15 p.m., David parked the station wagon on a great, it's one of those gravel turnout. And this was nearby, again, Lake Herman on the Lover's Lane area that everyone knew about. Well, not everyone, but teenagers would know about. This was in front of a lock gate that led to a dirt road. Just so you have an idea, okay? Think about a dark road, small, kind of dangerous to drive at night because it's kind of winding and kind of scary because there's no houses around. Okay, that's where they were. They were there until 11 p.m. by themselves. Now, keep in mind that, remember that David wanted to ask her to be his girlfriend. Well, maybe that's why they kind of changed the plan. They wanted to find a quiet place to talk. Okay, so they got there at 10:15, and they were still there at 11 when a married couple drove by. This married couple's name is Homer and Peggy Yor. They were driving west on Lake Herman Road, and when they got to the turnoff to the Venetia water pump station, Peggy saw a Rambler station wagon parked with the front end that it was heading east. Inside the car, there was a couple. Now, later on, she said that when the lights of her car kind of illuminated the area where they were, the guy sat up in the seat, and apparently the girl was kind of resting her head against his shoulder or something like that, but quickly moved when they were spotted. And something that she said as well is that the guy put his hands in the steering wheel immediately. I don't know, that made me believe that maybe he thought it was the police. You know how they tell you that you should keep your hands in the wheel so they can see what you're doing. Some people get offended by this, but you know, police officers need to make sure that they're not encountering somebody with a gun, so they have to see your hands. Now, when Peggy said that, it kind of made me think about that. Maybe he thought it was the police. Now, Peggy didn't do anything about it. She kind of just was being sneaky and checking up on whoever was there. Now, a short distance down the road, this couple also saw a red truck that was parked along Lake Herman Road. Now, this red Ford truck belonged to two raccoon hunters. Their names were Robert Connolly and Frank Gasser, who were beginning to go back from the area. You know, they were in the bushes, and they were heading back to the truck when this couple spotted them. They were both carrying rifles, and they were noticed, of course, by this couple. And it was kind of normal to see people with guns in the area because of hunting. But around 11:10 p.m., the raccoon hunters got back to their truck, and they headed out. Later on, they would say that when they were driving out of the area, they noticed the Rambler was still there. You know, the station wagon that this guy, David, was driving was still there when they left, and it was still parked in the gravel turnout off of the road. But something interesting that they say is that they did not see any other cars or people around it. Now, that was around 11:10 p.m., but around 11:14 p.m., there was a guy that was heading to work as an overnight shift supervisor at a nearby oil refinery in Benicia, okay? Remember, if you live in the Vallejo area, you would have to go through this road to get to the Benicia part of, you know, the county, which meant that, you know, he would have had to travel that road in order to make it to work. Now, this guy's name is James Owen. Now, Owen recalls seeing the station wagon parked in the gravel turnout, and he also said that saw another vehicle that he was not, apparently, and I'm trying to understand this guy, but apparently he didn't pay that much attention to it. He described the first vehicle as being a 1955 or 1956 station wagon, boxy type, neutral color. It was a beige color, actually, the one that they were driving. But he didn't remember the second vehicle. However, he said that it was kind of interesting to see a car parked there, let alone two of them. He also said that they were parked roughly 3 to 4 feet away from each other. Despite that, he didn't spot anybody there. Well, he only saw the vehicles, and this guy is going to give several statements. In one of those statements later on, after the first or the second one, he also said that he heard a gunshot in the distance behind him after he passed the gravel turnout. So I don't know, because how this story develops, I don't know if that is something that really happened or maybe he thought it happened. By this time, of course, Peggy and her husband are not there anymore, and the hunters are not there anymore. So he also said that he thought that it was he gave a description, but it was so vague that it really didn't help that much. At around 11:20 p.m., minutes later, around 11:20 p.m., and an hour and 5 minutes later, after David and Betty got there, not from when Owen saw this thing happening. I like to keep those things in perspective. I don't know, they help me understand a little bit more. A woman named Stella Borges was heading down Lake Herman Road from her nearby property named the Borges Ranch. She had her mom in the car with her, and apparently they were going to pick up her teenage son. As she was driving down Lake Herman Road, she rounded a corner, and her headlights illuminated the gravel turnout where David and Betty were parked. And remember, they'd been there for approximately an hour. She said that no cars were going in either direction while she was on the road, so she didn't see anybody leave the area or anybody driving ahead of her. When she arrived at the scene, the headlights picked up the car, and she saw a boy, and he looked like he'd fallen out of the open door, one of the doors, and I'll explain that in a minute. But the girl was lying on her side, and she was facing the road. She also noticed that she was very well dressed and that she had a purple dress on. She saw only the one car, and it looked like a Rambler. So she wanted to get help. Okay, remember, we're talking about the 60s here, so there wasn't a phone like everybody would carry a phone, not really. So she drove 60 or 70 miles an hour to go get help from the police and to report, of course, this incident. And she saw a police car, and she started to honk and blink her lights to attract the attention of the police officers, of course. Now inside there were two police officers, Captain Daniel Pita and Officer William Warner. They were at a gas station when she started to, honk and try to get their attention. And this was a couple miles away. And she immediately told them that what she had seen, and they followed her back to the gravel turnout. At 11:25, they arrived there, and within 5 minutes, of course, they called it in, and they asked for extra help. Now, there's another officer that has a different perspective on things, and I'm going to include him here. His name is Officer Pierre Bidou. He is from the Benicia Police Department, so it's the side of where Betty was living, and was one of the first officers on the scene. And he said that, and I'm going to quote, there's a quote here, and I'm going to read it. It says, "During that night, we had served a search warrant," and this is kind of important as to this particular case and how they think about suspects and stuff. "During that night, we had served a search warrant at what we call the cottage at Lake Herman, which was owned by the city of Benicia. A narcotics search warrant. My partner and I, we confiscated about 1.5 pounds of marijuana, which in the 60s this was a big deal. It was like the biggest drug bust. But and then he continues saying, "We were heading back to the police department to put the marijuana into evidence, and as we drove by, we did not see anyone in the area." So they were in the area, but they did not see them. So I don't know if they were below or if they were on the other side, but apparently they weren't, I don't know, even paying attention, or they didn't see because they weren't specifically there, or they didn't see anyone leaving the area. That would kind of suggest that maybe it was the one involved in this shooting. And okay, going back to what he said, but it's a turn there, and your headlights shine right in there as you go by. I should have seen it. I was pulling into the lot in the police department when we heard the Benicia Police Department dispatch about a call of a possible shooting and victims on Lake Herman Road, and described the location." He continues saying, "My partner and I turned around at the time and responded to the because that is one of the things that we told the sheriff's office, that we did not see any other vehicles coming our way. This officer, the one that was giving the statement, Officer Pierre Bidou, and his partner Steve Armenta, responded to the call of gunshot victims and arrived within minutes of Captain Pita and Officer Warner. Remember, those are the two officers that were flagged to go see the scene, and the first ones in the scene. At the scene, the officers found David Faraday laying. Okay, let's pay attention to this. The officers found David Faraday laying outside of the light brown 1961 Rambler station wagon. He had been shot once behind the ear, a shot that appeared to be fired from very close range. These responding officers tried to offer first aid to David, of course, while they were waiting for the paramedics to arrive. They did find a pulse, a very faint one, but the paramedics put David into an ambulance and rushed him to the closest hospital. When David was originally examined, officers and paramedics noted that he was holding his glass ring between the fingers on his left hand. My gosh, that breaks my heart. But I think those are the details that it really humanize what happened, and it's not all about the Zodiac, it's all about them. The people that lost their lives to this person, if you can even call it that. He had most likely been in the process of handing the ring to Betty when they were interrupted. Now, the scene surrounding Betty was completely a different story altogether. Her body had been found under 30 feet away from the vehicle. She was face down. And remember that when Stella, the woman that originally discovered the bodies while driving down Lagerman Road, she saw that Betty's body was lying on her side, kind of facing the road, which again breaks my heart, but this means that she was alive when she drove by. And by the time and she tried to get away from the car, she was about 30 feet away from the car. But 10 to 15 minutes later, when the police arrived, Betty had passed away. There was a small trail of blood marking her path from the station wagon to where she died. And to be more exact, it was about 28 feet away. She was shot 5 times, all from behind. So that would probably mean that she was trying to run away from this person, or that the shooter was coming from behind the car. She had 3 in the upper back and 2 in her lower back. An autopsy would later reveal that bullets had gone through her heart, liver, and right kidney, and her lungs were pierced by 3 separate gunshots. Detective Sergeant Leslie Lombo arrived at the scene. This is another detective and officer, and arrived at the scene at around 12:05 a.m. And by the time that he arrived, David was already in the hospital. So he was trying to examine the area, and just so you have an idea, Betty was still there, and she was pronounced dead in a cover-up. There were some chalk outlines detail where the 2 bodies were found, and a medical examiner was on its way, and he was supposed to take Betty's body and take it in for an autopsy. Now at that time, Detective Lomblad ordered an officer to head to the hospital and try to get a statement from David as soon as possible. But by the time the officer got there, they were told that it was too late and David was pronounced dead on arrival. The police combed the area looking for any evidence that could help the investigation. They didn't find much, but they did find Betty's purse nearby the vehicle, and it hadn't been touched. So this indicated that it wasn't actually a robbery. else was missing either. It seemed to be a random shooting perpetrated for personal reasons. They took down witness statements from they had a few witnesses. Remember, they had the your couple that were driving down that road. And apparently they did several times that night. That's why they've seen so much. Homer, the husband, was inspecting some work that he had been doing at the nearby water pumping station. So that's why they've seen so much. They also spoke to Robert Connolly and Frank Hazard. Remember, they got raccoon hunters who had left the area just minutes before the events. And they described seeing the Rambler station wagon parked there when they left. This is the hunters, right? And also stated that they'd seen a white Chevy, maybe even an Impala, parked there when they arrived earlier that evening at around 9 p.m. So the hunters did see another car, but this was early. It was around 9 p.m. And remember that David and Betty made it to this spot at 10:15 p.m. that same night. Maybe related, maybe not related, but when they got there, somebody else was there too. Investigators also spoke to a young man named William Crow, who had been out driving with his girlfriend in his sports car that evening. He told the police that he had seen a white Chevy in the area at around 9:30 p.m. Now that white Chevy is looking closer and closer to the time that David and Betty were there. This sighting of a white Chevy was confirmed by a local farmer too. His name was Bingo Wessner, and I'm gonna quote him. Well, actually, not really, because it's pretty long. Basically, he was checking his Jeep at approximately 10 p.m. and he saw a white Chevy Impala parked by the south fence of the entrance to the pumping station. Remember that this is a small town. Everyone kind of know everyone. They know what kind of car they drive and everything. So I'm sure if this Chevy Impala was from somebody that worked at the water pump station, they would have known. But this was something out of the ordinary. Now, police had spoken to James Owen. Remember, he was the guy that worked at the refinery, the oil refinery. And they went back and talked to him the next day after the shooting. And he had told me, remember, that he said about the second vehicle that was parked 3 or 4 feet away from the station wagon at around 11:15 p.m. But when they talked to him the next day, he also said that, hey, remember that I mentioned before that he changed his statement saying that the vehicle might have been parked up to 10 feet away. And it was in this statement that he told the police that he heard a gunshot less than a minute after passing the gravel turnout, which he didn't report to the police in his original statement, which makes me wonder why. Now, police asked the two raccoon hunters, as well as James Owen, to bring, they asked politely to bring their firearms. They wanted to do an inspection and trying to see if it matched the ones that were used to kill the couple. Police had discovered 9 shells at the Lake Herman Road crime scene, and they only recovered 8 bullets. However, they were able to determine that all of them were from the same manufacturer and brand. I have no idea about brands. I don't know about guns, but I'm gonna try not to butcher it, and hopefully it will make sense to you if you know about, guns. They were Winchester Western Super X copper-coated 22 caliber long rifle bullets. I have no idea what that is, but maybe you know. They were all matched the same, so they were more than likely were used by the killer. While investigating the scene, police had discovered that 3 of the shots fired were missed. like the shooter had been firing from several feet away when he started. And according to them, maybe he was trying to fire a couple of warning shots so the people inside the car would leave the vehicle and he would see them better to shoot them. Now, of course, that is exactly what they did, or what the couple tried to do. It seemed like Betty, who had been the first out of the passenger door, had gotten the farthest, but she was shot while she was trying to escape from the car. David, on the other hand, had been shot almost instantly as he escaped through the passenger side door. I don't understand why he would have to go through the passenger side door. The only thing that I can imagine, because it would be easier for him, you would open one door, you would open the other door, and they would exit. So it was either broken, which it doesn't say anywhere, or I don't know, he was parking away that he couldn't get out or open the door. I'm not sure why, but both of them tried to exit through the passenger side door. Police began to suspect that they might have had some professional training and maybe even military or law enforcement, which, by the way, it's the most common thing in the area. So you're narrowing it down to the entire population of the area. Or maybe this was somebody who was very, I don't know, maybe it was a hunter or something like that. Now let's go through what people believe were the investigation that the police did and the people that they thought might have had something to do with this. They initially consider a romantic rival of David's, and apparently this guy was showing interest in Betty at the same time that David started to date Betty. Now, this guy in particular had a history of petty crime. He had burglary and vandalism, and he was kind of bending the rules. So the police thought that maybe he had something to do with it. However, this guy was eliminated right away from the suspect list because he was with a police officer that evening, so he couldn't have done it. They don't say if he was arrested. They don't say if he was having problems with the police, if he was stopped with this, and given a speeding ticket. They don't say. They just say that he was with a police officer. Investigators then began looking into the possibility of the crime being drug-related. Now, the police they were digging, and apparently David had gotten into a little bit of trouble with a local drug dealer that coincidentally the drug dealer was the one involved in the drug bust from earlier that evening. Remember that I told you that the second officer or the third officer that made it to the scene was the one that was in the busted drug deal thing. Well, apparently David had some kind of problem with the drug dealer in the area that coincidentally was the one being arrested that night. They did investigate that theory for quite some time, but it really didn't take them anywhere. So the case went cold. Jean Faraday, which is David's mother, she told a local reporter, and I'm gonna read these statements to you so you have a better idea. And she said, "It's one of those things that just leaves me speechless. I have been able to think of nothing that would point to David. He was easygoing and friendly, never seemed to have any trouble in school." Now, Vernie Jensen, which is Betty's father, and this guy, he spent 20 years in the army before retiring in 63, so he spoke to the press about the loss of his daughter as well at the time, and he He said, I don't feel vindictive, but I am apprehensive. I feel some nut is on the loose. And Officer Pierre Bidu also said, I don't believe personally that he was just passing by and the kids were just there. I think it was planned out by him for whatever sadistic reason to some extent. Now after the case going cold and this, the family trying to keep alive this case, winter and spring came and went, and before long summer was here. The 4th of July came around, and this killer was still on the loose, getting ready for his next victims. I hope you join me for my next episode, where I'm going to go through the second victims, or the second set of victims to the Zodiac killer. I just feel like by going through each one of the cases, they become a little bit more personal. And when you make something a little bit more personal, you can see things in different lights, and you can use it. This is gonna sound silly, but it almost feels like you use a different side of your brain, where you can start to feel empathy, and you can start to feel a little bit, just at 1% of what people felt at the time, what the families felt at the time. Put yourself for 5 minutes in the position of either, Betty Lou's parents or David's. This was a small town, military town. Good kids going to high school, having good grades, doing everything right. They just went out for dinner and they wanted to talk, and they ended up dead. The police at this point had no idea what happened to them, and little by little we're going to start to build a pattern that it's going to give the profile of the Zodiac killer. It is unsettling, but I hope that you join me so we can continue this investigation, and we continue to learn more about the victims of the Zodiac killer. So at the end, again, we can come up with our own theories, and we can give a spin to a very well-known story, the Zodiac story. Thanks so much for watching or listening to this video, guys. I will see you soon with part 2 and what really happened that 4th of July. Now, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of people is very biased in this second story because it was about a girl who was cheating on her husband, and that's just a little sneak peek of what's coming. So just so you know, they're not all teenagers, like it's very well known and said on the internet. But this is a completely different couple under different circumstances in a completely different place. So again, I hope you join me for part 2. Hopefully it will be up tomorrow. Hope you have a great day. Bye, guys.